So we're going to do the second half of the stitch to complete the joining, which takes the place of the picot loop on the chain. So now we're going to make 3 double stitches. First half of 1, second half, first half of 2, second half, first half of 3, second half, and now we're going to make a picot loop, just like we did there where you've got the 3, and with the 3 double stitches separated by a picot loop. So we're going to make the loop, first half of the loop, second half of the loop, which I'm still not counting those as a stitch. We're going to make the first half of the first stitch, and the back half, first half, and the back, first half, and the back of 3. So we're going to make one more picot loop, which I still won't count as a stitch, so we'll count that one, and then the first half of 1, first half of 2, or first half of 1, sorry, and then that one makes 2, and then the first half, and that makes 3. And this one's going to be slightly different because we're making a chain as opposed to a ring. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this straight off the needle, which is why it's so great having the little tail, because it's just going to catch it. And then just make sure you don't get it knotted. And if you do, just kind of lightly tug it until it unloops itself. And this is great having the crochet hook and a metal stick. You can kind of straighten it out and then pull. And voila! Unknotted itself. So now what we're going to do is, when you're first doing this, go ahead and tie a knot here, because that will just give it some extra stability. And then for this, you're just going to slightly turn it so you get a flat square knot. And just pull that, and then flip it back. So that ties the chain, so it's not going to go anywhere. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the needle from the back end through the picot loop. Just pull it through, so it just kind of sits there. And this is a good place to make yet another knot, just so it stays in place. And now we're going to make the second ring. So we're going to make 3 double stitches right here at that knot. And 2 and 3. And then we're going to join this to the last picot loop of the chain. And what that's going to do is it's going to give the ring some stability. Okay, so there's the front half of the join and the second half. Now we're going to make 3 double stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to make a picot loop, which is the second one technically of this, because the first one is used to join. So that's stitch 1, stitch 2, and stitch 3. Then we're going to make the third one, which will be joining to the next chain that we're going to do in just one moment. 1, 2, and fingers, and makes 3. Okay, so now this one we're going to chain around, we're going to close by pulling the thread around and pulling straight through, so we get a nice little ring. So at this point, you're going to want to tie a knot here, and then flip it so that you get a nice square knot. Flip it back. At this point, for stability purposes, I go ahead and take the needle through the picot loop that's underneath it, right under here, and then make another knot. Not that big of a knot. This way, when I'm starting the next chain, it starts from underneath the loop, underneath the ring, and then just goes around. So what you're going to do is you're going to follow the process of making the ring, then tying it down, making the chain, joining it, finishing the chain, making a knot, then making the next loop. And you're going to continue to do that until you have all of them done. So where we are now is we've made the center ring, we've made ring 1, chain 1, which joined into ring 2, which joined into chain 2, which joins into ring 3, which joins into chain 3, then I made ring 4, which is joining into chain 4. What I want to show you now is once you have the first joining picot loop, and you have 3 stitches, and you have the free floating, not free floating, the free picot loop 2, and then the 3 stitches. In order for me to turn this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off the needle. So just for visual purposes, the needle is behind it. So what I'm going to do, because we have the tail, it's going to be, this is the chain, so we're going to take it off without closing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull it and then take it off of here. And the nice thing with needle tatting is you can do some fun stuff with it. You can make chains and then join them to other things later. So we're going to set the needle down, we're going to get the crochet hook, we're going to pull, we're going to put it through the open loop on the first ring, and then pull the crochet thread that's attached to the ball through the loop, once my fingers get together, and we're going to pull it through the loop so that we have, you know, space to work through. We're going to grab the needle now and then put it through the loop and then just pull it taut. And then we're going to make loop the second half of the joining loop on the left side of the needle, and you're going to make 3 stitches. First half of, that's second half, first half of 2, second half of 2, first half of 3, second half of 3. So now we're going to go ahead and pull this off the needle, and then we're going to pull it tight, which will kind of make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so now at this point go ahead and tie the chain close. I'm just going to flip this so that I make my nice little square knot. And then I'm going to join this into the little space, into the knots that's formed under the very first ring, because it makes it more stable. And then once you hide the ends, then you can hide it in the ring either above where the knots are or in the center ring below, depending on how much you're going to hide. So now that I've got that just in there, and then just for visual purposes, this is the little gap that we made from that very first stitch. So just kind of pull that tight to make it a little flat, stick this through the part that's attached to the ball, and then I'm just going to flip this so that it is facing, the ring 1 is facing downward, just to make my knot a little more square and flat. See, this is kind of neat. If you have kids that you're entertaining, you can put it on here and make a flippy thingy. Or
that is stinking cool.
Be careful, if you do this in front of cats, they will attack you and steal your string. My cats like to steal my not my crochet needles. They steal my tatting needles, and then if I have a shuttle around me, they will steal it and hide it under the fridge. My cats are evil. So, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make another knot just to make sure that it stays in place, because I don't want it going anywhere. So, I got 2 knots to finish that off. So now we're going to go ahead and cut. I give a pretty good distance when I'm going to hide the ends and cut it off the ball. It's neat because whenever you're doing these, because you're using two different strings to make one design, you have like a guideline string that's underneath. So we're just going to lightly pick up through those. So you pick up the first layer, because on the other side, you can't tell that you've got anything running through it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up those first 3 stitches, and then it's just like sewing at this point. You just pull it through, and then I'm going back underneath the next couple of stitches, and then pulling it through, and I'm going to go through one more set of these 5 double stitches just for stability. You don't have to, but at least this way, if you go through a few extra, you know that it's not going anywhere. All you have to do, get a pair of scissors, hold this to where you have the string taut on one side, and then I'm just going to do this flat for visual purposes. So I've got my string that I had hid, and then the object I've made underneath, and then just pull it and cut. You want to make sure that you don't cut any of these, because then it will fall apart. And then you're going to do the same with this other one. And like I said, you can run it through here, or you can run it through the top one. The upcoming video will be highlighting the 4-point flower as a centerpiece of a bracelet. The trick is going to be split rings. This is not basic tatting. This is a little bit more advanced, but once you watch the video on the split rings, they get easier, and then there's more things you can do with them, because these white pieces are all split rings, and then this is more, you know, basic tatting with the centerpiece. And because I have a tiny wrist, it fits perfectly. And then the great thing is you can always add more split rings to adjust to the size of the ring, to the size of the wrist that you have, which is why I love fabric. Another thing that you can make, which is more advanced using split rings, is this really awesome design that makes great pendants and Christmas tree ornaments. This itself, you can put on a pair of, like, you can add to a pair of earrings, you can add a jump ring to it and make it a necklace, you can make it a Christmas tree ornament, you can hang it in your car from your rearview mirror. If you make several of them, you can join them together and make a flower, a bigger flower. You can also make them out of bamboo thread. It's a little bit looser. You can make it out of the normal size 10 crochet thread, that's the cotton stuff. You can also make it out of the size 5 crochet thread. It makes it a little bit bigger, and different brands make it a little bit different size. So you've got some wiggle room to play with by picking what yarn you want.